Hey there folks, Tim Slade here from the eLearning Designers Academy, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you some of my top tips for how teachers can successfully make the transition into an e-learning or an instructional design job. So if that at all describes what you're trying to do, you will want to stick around. If you've given any amount of attention to what's been going on in our industry, you've probably noticed that there's a huge number of teachers who are looking to leave teaching behind and make the transition into e-learning design or instructional design within the corporate world. And in fact, according to a report from the Alliance for Excellent Education, almost 500,000 U.S. teachers either move or leave the profession each year. And frankly, I don't blame them. Teachers are notoriously underpaid and overworked, at least here in the U.S., and so it's only natural that these folks would start looking for career or financial advancement somewhere else. So if you happen to be one of these teachers looking to make the transition out of teaching and into e-learning or instructional design, you've probably discovered it can be a bit of an uphill battle. All of the training, education, and preparation you've done to get hired as a teacher is totally different when you're looking to get hired as an e-learning designer or an instructional designer in the corporate world. So, what I want to do today is give you some of my top tips that will hopefully help you better position yourself to get hired into one of these corporate e-learning or instructional design jobs. So my first tip is a simple one, but I'll explain why it's so important here in just a moment. And it's to focus on building your skills. When you're attempting to make the leap from teaching to e-learning design or instructional design, it can literally feel like trying to jump over the Grand Canyon. And if you're a teacher, you've spent years focusing on your credentials and education to land the ideal teaching job in the ideal school district. However, as I mentioned a few moments ago, getting hired as an e-learning designer or an instructional designer in a corporate organization is a totally different challenge. You see, in recent years, more and more organizations have started prioritizing tangible skills over credentials alone. So rather than hiring for years of experience or formal education, many organizations have started focusing on the actual skills a candidate can offer right now. Can you manage a learning project? Can you conduct a needs analysis? Can you draft an e-learning storyboard? Can you use an e-learning authoring tool to develop an e-learning course? These are all the things that employers want right now out of the gate. So, as a result, if you're a teacher looking to transition into e-learning or instructional design, your first priority needs to be focused on building the skills that corporate hiring managers are looking for in potential candidates. And, well, I already know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, gosh, that seems like such a catch-22. I need tangible e-learning or instructional design skills to get hired as an e-learning or an instructional designer, but I need to get hired as an e-learning or instructional designer to practice e-learning or instructional design, right? Well, not exactly. Even if you're not an e-learning designer or an instructional designer, there's a lot you can be doing to develop these skills. And no, before you ask, you don't need to go back to school. You already have an education in education, so you're good there. But what you can do is spend time researching, learning, and practicing all of the skills required to be an e-learning designer or an instructional designer. Spend time learning about adult learning theory, instructional design principles, project management, storyboarding, visual design, and of course, e-learning development. There's tons of content and resources out there on Google, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other websites just like mine that you can use to develop these skills. Also, I'd recommend doing what you can to put these skills into practice. That might mean downloading a trial version of an e-learning authoring tool like Articulate Storyline, pick a random topic, and practice building an e-learning course in your free time. Not only will this help you put your skills into practice, it'll also help you build your portfolio. Alright, so that was my first tip, which was very practical in nature. However, my second tip is one that's going to challenge the way you think of yourself as a teacher. And that's to redefine your experience. So what do I mean by that? Well, Whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is that teachers do day in and day out. And I know you hate hearing this, but it's easy for corporate folks who've never spent any time teaching to assume that your job consists of babysitting other people's children while they make macaroni art all day. And yeah, I know that's not fair and it's not true, but that's what some people think. And so the onus is on you to help hiring managers see that your experience and the skills that you've worked so hard to build do apply to the position they're hiring for. So what does that look like? Well, in a practical sense, it's just about redefining how you describe your experience by using terms and phrases that translate to the corporate world. And whether you believe it or not, much of what you do as a teacher is transferable to the things that corporate hiring managers need to hire for. It's just that the terms you use every day get lost in translation. It's a matter of semantics. So, for example, you might use the phrase lesson planning, right, as part of your job. But that's not a phrase commonly used within a corporate e-learning or instructional design job. So rather than saying lesson planning on your resume or during an interview, describe that part of your job as curriculum design or curriculum development. They're both the same thing, it's just a different set of words that resonates more with a corporate person. Okay, let's do a few more. Instead of saying something like faculty meeting, say stakeholder meeting. Or rather than grading assignments, you could say learning evaluation. You could even go as far as to replace the word teacher with facilitator if you wanted to. The truth is, like I said, these are all the same thing, and you don't want to be dishonest or lie about your experience. It's just about appealing to the vernacular of someone who doesn't work as a teacher. All right, so my final tip for making the transition from teaching to e-learning design or instructional design is to focus on building your brand and online presence. If you want to be hired into a corporate e-learning or instructional design role, then you need to hang out where other corporate learning professionals hang out. And that means having a complete LinkedIn profile with a good photo and a description of not just what you do, but what you want to be hired for. So if you're actively working to build your e-learning skills to get hired as an e-learning designer, then don't brand yourself as a teacher. Brand yourself as an aspiring e-learning designer. This will help corporate recruiters and hiring managers find you. Now, beyond that, if you've taken my first tip to heart and have already started building some e-learning examples, then work to create an online portfolio to showcase those examples. This will provide potential employers living evidence of the skills they're looking to hire for. And finally, along the lines of building your brand, make sure to connect, network, and learn from others who are already doing the work that you want to be doing. Our industry is so incredibly giving, and so if you want to pick the brain of someone you admire, reach out. Make a genuine connection and ask your questions. I think you'll be honestly surprised about how much folks are willing to help in our industry. All right, so those are just some of my tips for teachers looking to make the transition into e-learning or instructional design, which of course leads me to my question of the day, which is a two-parter. First, if you're a teacher looking to make the transition to e-learning or instructional design, what struggles have you faced in that transition? And second, if you happen to be a teacher who has successfully made the transition, what tips would you share for others? You can put all of that by commenting down below. All right, as always, I want to thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below. And of course, if you want to learn more about growing your e-learning career and building your e-learning or instructional design skills, make sure to check out the eLearning Designers Academy at elearningacademy.io. My name is Tim Slade, and until next time, I'll see you around.